Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
Everyone has seen the courtroom sketches, the raids, and the headlines about a once untouchable millionaire now facing serious scrutiny. But the latest information suggests this story extends far beyond Sean Diddy Combs himself and into a wider power structure that allegedly operated well outside the walls of his mansion. With Paris Hilton now emerging at the center of renewed attention, not as a victim, but as someone insiders claim was closely connected to figures currently under federal investigation, raising questions not only about what she may have witnessed, but what she may have been involved in. As long-standing silences begin to fracture, the timing is critical. Just weeks after federal agents executed search warrants at Diddy's Miami and Los Angeles properties in connection with allegations involving trafficking, racketeering, and what prosecutors describe as an organized pattern of behavior. Sources familiar with the case insist the FBI's focus isn't limited to Diddy alone, signaling that the investigation may be expanding to examine a broader network of influence, access, and accountability within elite circles.
I should say that, remember, Diddy and his team were very upset when they found out that this footage was part of the documentary, and they tried to shut it down, but,
the act of taping it
already
was so
the
awful.
act of taping it, right.
Without
Diddy would say that I didn't authorize that video going out, and the argument they've made is that he is the one who has the right, that he owns that.
Insiders now portray Paris Hilton not as a passive guest, but as an active fixture within the after-hours ecosystem that allegedly fueled Diddy's operations, citing first-hand accounts from individuals tied to the investigation who claim her presence at these events was deliberate rather than incidental, with one former associate stating anonymously that she was more than a socialite and instead part of the machinery. A claim bolstered by her repeated appearances at the same gatherings where drugs were allegedly abundant. Private rooms were reportedly monitored and aspiring artists were said to face coercive pressures, suggesting calculated involvement rather than coincidence. As Diddy's legal team scrambles to contain the fallout, the focus is increasingly shifting from his individual culpability to the broader question of who else may be implicated when the full scope of these events comes to light. A question that gains weight when considering that Diddy's infamous white parties were not merely lavish celebrations, but according to sources, carefully controlled environments where power, access, and silence allegedly intersected.
I'm just really, I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck during those years. You're still stuck.
Between 1998 and 2009, they drew celebrities like Paris Hilton, Jay-Z, and Mariah Carey under the guise of breaking down racial and generational barriers. The clothing code was white.it has a distinct vibe. However, lawsuits alleged something worse was going on behind the scenes. A man who attended the first party in 1998 at the age of 16 said in a 2024 lawsuit that Hugh was lured into a private area where Diddy allegedly demanded that he prove himself in order to gain notoriety. Another case is from a former security guard who claims he was given narcotics and beaten at the 2006 event. Audrey English, an adult film actress, asserts that she was forced into being a trafficker after working at multiple white parties where drink was allegedly contaminated. So, what part does Hilton play? According to multiple accounts, she wasn't just a guest.
Q of day 26, they were all making the band 4. He has finally come out and had a conversation about why he was so upset and crying, and a lot of his interviews talking about Diddy and that whole conversation. And he is making some really huge allegations.
The same individuals were engaged in Key's drug-induced blackout on day 26. Don Richard has denied that she facilitated similar incidents, and Justin Bieber's name has resurfaced in connection with Diddy's 48-hour insanity with a 15-year-old. These weren't just ostentatious scenes. They were allegedly utilized as staging places for leverage. Now, let's relate this to Epstein. Although Hilton has never had any meaningful interaction with Jeffrey Epstein, she has long been associated with his social group. In a 2025 interview with The Times, she remarked, "I don't even remember meeting her," brushing off claims that Ghislaine Maxwell tried to recruit her for Epstein as sensationalism.
Dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton.
Diddy's parties and Epstein's business weren't only coincidental. They belong to the same ecology where claimed exploitation, power, and influence all came together. What is altered? Diddy is not the only subject of the FBI's current investigation. It has to do with the network. Furthermore, Hilton's name is mentioned by itself. It's connected to statements from people like Kay, who sobbed in a Vlad TV interview about how he woke up screaming in Diddy's twins' bedroom as the cameras were filming. "It felt very sacrificial," he stated in a broken voice. Don Richard, who fiercely disputed providing drugs, said this situation is not about one person, hence at a much larger circle of complicity. Usher, who lived with Diddy when he was 13, subsequently told Howard Stern that he witnessed things so bizarre that he was unable to comprehend.
Had day 17 on the Diddy trial as the biggest one yet. Guess what? Bingo, you won, because today was probably the most eventful day as far as things that happened that were said on the stand, and most importantly, things that the judge said, because Diddy almost got kicked out of.
With Diddy's trial set for May 2025 and reports claiming more than 120 accusers, the FBI is clearly not just building a case against one man but mapping an entire system of influence, control, and silence. And within that framework, Paris Hilton could be significant, whether as a witness, a participant, or something in between, because insiders say Diddy's leverage over careers, access, and opportunity created enormous pressure to either cooperate or stay quiet, especially for someone like Hilton, whose brand depended on being the ultimate insider. This is where the picture gets even more complicated, as Justin Bieber quietly unfollowing Usher after the raids raised eyebrows. Given Bieber's long-documented proximity to Diddy and the resurfacing of old clips and footage from his teenage years, and while Bieber has never publicly explained those connections, the timing of his social media distancing, coinciding with the expanding federal investigation, has only intensified speculation that the fallout is spreading well beyond Diddy himself and into the wider network now under scrutiny.
Really screwed up, and I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now, but it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, Diddy the Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around.
Although the all-white dress code is meant to represent purity, this is not the case in practice. Hilton dismissed the Maxwell recruitment claim as clickbait in 2025 when the Epstein files dominated headlines. But she also admitted, "I'm such a good clickbait name." That's not a denial, rather, it's a deflection. And in the world of stakes legal battles, deflections are frequently the first indication that the rules weren't just about networking, according to multiple lawsuits.
There is a partial verdict in the Diddy case after 2 days. The jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts. The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on
Paris Hilton's reputation isn't the only one at risk, but it might be the most vulnerable given that Diddy's legal team is reportedly preparing to claim that Hugh was a victim of his own success and that the parties, the lifestyle, and the accusations were all part of a smear campaign. If the FBI's files show what insiders say they do, the targets aren't just Diddy, but everyone who helped him build the machine.
Probably leaning towards guilt. Now, on the racketeering, I agree with you that the predicate acts may be found, but that's not all they need. There's an ultimate question. The first question on the jury verdict form is, do you find him guilty or not guilty of racketeering? Before you even get to the predicate acts, which you only get to if you find guilt, they could just be hung up on that question and say, this guy's not Tony Soprano. I am not convinced that I even want to find guilt.
She is linked to the same figures alleged to have destroyed lives, the same network now under federal investigation, and the same circle that included Epstein associates. And as one source put it, I'm not even convinced this is about finding guilt. Because if past few weeks have shown you anything, it's that in cases like this, the truth rarely stays buried for long. This is where the puzzle finally comes together. Since the FBI is no longer focused solely on Diddy's actions, but also on those who allegedly enabled him, showed up, benefited, or stayed silent, and if Paris Hilton's name appears in those files, not as a victim or a bystander, but as someone allegedly involved, the question shifts from what she knew to what she may be willing to see to protect herself. Because more than any headline or party rumor, that is the real story. This was never just about one man, but about a system that survived on access, favors, and silence. A machine that was not self-sustaining, but fueled by people willing to trade careers, deals, and reputations for looking the other way. And silence, it turns out, always comes with a price.
The price.
So he put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his. I guess that's what the whole name Bad Boy comes from. That people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? He never really gave a clear definition of how he feels.
Stern described the experience as eye-opening in ways that no teenager should ever know, and he admitted to seeing some quite strange and indecent things. But in response to Stern's inquiry about whether he would permit his own children to be in such an environment, Usher gave a categorically negative answer. So why did he stay? Why would he later refer to Diddy as amateur even if he acknowledged the poison in private? The secret to the answer lies in the industry's unspoken agreement. Access in exchange for loyalty. If a celebrity like Usher, who had the option to leave, choose to adhere to those values, just think of the pressure that would be placed on those with much less influence. This is not about a single billionaire or socialite. It's about a whole ecosystem where ambition was money and morality was negotiable. There was more to the white parties than just gatherings. It was outrage out. In 2024, a former security guard filed a lawsuit alleging that Diddy gave him a narcotic during the 2006 event and then attacked him in a secret place. Another petition claims that Audria English, an adult performer hired for the gatherings, was gradually trained into trafficking by having her drinks spiked to lower inhibitions.
He'll explain why he's speaking out now.
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator, he wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked.
Publicists like Rob Shooter, who worked for Diddy in the early 2000s, have described the atmosphere around him as circus-like, heavy security, an inner circle sworn to secrecy, and a figure at the center controlling every move. And while Shooter has said he personally never witnessed misconduct, his account of a tightly managed zero-leak operation still paints the picture of a machine built to shape narratives and protect power. This matters because Diddy wasn't just throwing parties. He was running empires. Bad Boy Records, Shahjahan Sayak, each dependent on investors, media partners, and distributors with strong incentives to stay loyal. Which is why Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit alleging years of abuse, coercion, and career sabotage sent shockwaves through the industry as insiders quietly acknowledged how such loyalty networks could allegedly be weaponized, with her claim that her music was withheld unless she complied, functioning less like an isolated accusation and more like a warning about how dissent is punished. Reinforcing the idea that crossing the wrong figure activates the entire system against you, a dynamic, critics argue, has existed for decades and may help explain how other high-profile names, including Paris Hilton's, remain shielded from scrutiny for so long.
Has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of...
In the 2020 documentary series Surviving Jeffrey Epstein, composer Christopher Mason revealed that Ghislaine Maxwell had thought about hiring Paris Hilton for Epstein, calling her perfect for his tastes. The intersection of Diddy circle and Epstein's is not a coincidence. It is an indication of the long-standing clandestine activities of financial, entertainment, and political power brokers. Both men allegedly used party aces hunting grounds. Both relied on wannabblers to keep their secrets safe, and both had trails of individuals who kept quiet until the legal walls started to hush it in. However, this is where the narrative turns more darker. The enabler's were more than just individuals. They were businesses. The raids on Diddy's residences in 2024 weren't only directed at him. They are related to the paper trail.
We just got this new audio from the Diddy trial, and it is pretty explosive. This is audio of a voicemail that Diddy left to the Jane Doe who's been testifying in this trial for the last couple days, and he sounds really annoyed. He's talking about her maybe giving him the silent treatment. His response is, I got a busy life, I can't be dealing with your silent treatment.
Remember the 2019 release of the Epstein files. CEOs, politicians, and kings were all involved in the controversy that started as a lawsuit against one guy. The same thing might happen here. If Diddy's parties were truly intended to assess artists' allegiance, foster them, or document compromising incidents, then the guest lists are more than just names. They might be defendants, or worse for some, witnesses. Let's take a closer look at the control mechanisms. There are multiple cases that describe a playbook: drug misuse, loneliness, and the possibility of career advancement.
This is the flight where Diddy said to her, showed her the video, he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to send it to your mother. And that's coercion. She testified to that. If the jury believed her, that's coercion. They would have that.
And the most striking development is that the very system that once shielded these secrets is now turning inward, with media outlets reversing their praise, executives scrambling to distance themselves, and familiar tools like NDAs, payouts, and intimidation reappearing, this time under prosecutorial scrutiny, making it feel as if the machine is consuming itself. For someone like Paris Hilton, that shift is especially perilous. Because if even fragments of insider claims that she was more than a guest are reflected in federal records, her long-held status as the ultimate insider could become a liability. Since public judgment has no statute of limitations and federal investigators don't trade in second chances, underscoring that this moment isn't about one fallen figure, but the collapse of an entire era where silence equaled survival, power equaled money, and truth was a commodity, leaving the real questions focused not just on what Diddy did or what Hilton knew, but on who else was present, who benefited from the quiet, and who may be exposed when the files finally surface. Because in Hollywood, the most dangerous thing isn't a secret itself. It's the unraveling of the system that kept it hidden.